the question that I have to ask, and it's been asked before, Naya, is this the real thing? Is this a sustainable protest? Is it a movement? Or is it not?
Well, we was talking about that in the office. We think it's an organic, authentic movement. It came from the ground up. It's not led by any particular charismatic leader. It's led by the youth, I believe, and they are angry. They're fearful, but they have a purpose. They're very clear about what they want. They want justice, but they also want to be heard.
In 1991, Rodney King was seen by the world getting beat by LAPD. It was the ushering of the new age, of the digital age, of what was long just viewed to be rumor in the black community there. We fast forward to the Eric Garner case, what some would see as irrefutable evidence. What do you think is the main source as to why this did not result in an indictment, and then, of course, obviously leading to the outrage that people have for it?
Well, it's very difficult to ask a prosecutor that works with a police department 365 days a year, and then ask them to prosecute these same officers. And I think that's the biggest problem that we've seen, especially with the Eric Garner case. So what I hope we're going to see happen across the country is we'll have special prosecutors come in and prosecute most of these cases.
I'm going to go to St. Louis Tepo. If you could tell me, please, how do the people of Ferguson, or how do people who are in Ferguson and have thus now seen these protests across the country, do they feel empowered by this? Or do they feel still isolated, that they're dealing with just their own justice system there in Missouri?
I believe that this movement is giving people a more global perspective. Tomorrow I'll be traveling to Palestine to visit with activists on the ground there and try to connect some type of solidarity between the struggle here in America in places like Ferguson and the South Bronx with our brothers and sisters overseas that go through very own struggles. I believe that this protest movement is transforming the youth into a more global perspective when it comes to politics and struggle worldwide.
I'm going to stay with you with this question of the piece that took place where it came to violence and the rioting and the looting that came from it. We know that, through the years, that violence has been, and from one side or the other, a part of protests. But this definitely changed the PR image or the PR face of these protests, even just for a little bit. Do you think people have a right to make a connection between the looting of a few individuals and the protests that take place for whatever reasons, the legitimate reasons of the perception of injustice?
I mean, the narrative of the looting, when we really break it down, for me, pertains back to the responsibility of our lawmakers. You see people like Jay Nixon and Bob McCullough purposely decide to release such a volatile and explosive and important decision at nighttime when they know people are emotional. And I believe that the community in some instances has been played into a weird position, like a weird science experiment where they do certain things to see how people respond. And people are already poor and impoverished they already have a lack of education and a lack of options, and they already feel disenfranchised. And you do something like release such an important verdict at nighttime, almost to cover up the fact that a police officer did get away with murder, and all of a sudden the narrative in the media changes to covering the looting and the burning of buildings as opposed to the fact that Darren Wilson walked free.
Let's fast forward, Monique, to here in New York City. The execution of two police officers by clearly somebody who all people will agree was mentally disturbed. But there was an immediate attempt to make a connection between the protests and these executions. It is extended here in New York to a Cold War of sorts between the mayor and the police union. Moving forward, what is it that you think Americans need to know about this big gap, this big rift between communities of color and police?
I would say that there's a huge rift of distrust and inability to really take the police seriously as people who are supposed to protect them. I believe there's a there's a video going around that really contrasts the narrative of how a white father can turn to his son and say, if you ever get in trouble, you can turn to the police because they're there to protect you. Whereas there's black fathers turning to their sons, telling them, be careful if police approach you, you know, if you are approached by them, engage with them in a certain way. Don't wear certain things. Don't say certain things. Be calm. And I think that, you know, people who haven't been as sympathetic to the Black Lives Matter movement have been quick to say, oh, well, black on black crime is a huge issue itself, and you can't really talk about the issue of police brutality without tackling that. It's, you know, when really they're two different issues themselves, and this is a time to really talk about police brutality as it affects black people and really recognize it for the extremely dangerous, the extremely ongoing and deeply rooted problem that it is.
We got about 40 seconds left. Tepo, I'm going to start with you there. In 2015, does this become a much broader issue, or does it stay exactly where it is?
You know, I ask myself that every day, and I believe that right now we have to cause disruptions. We have to make everything uncomfortable. The civil rights movement and Martin Luther King in particular specialized in making people uncomfortable to obtain their goals. And I think right now we're dealing with that. We have to make everything uncomfortable.
Turning point or right where it is?
I think it's absolutely a turning point, 100%. I mean, to your point earlier about Rodney King, I mean, look where we are right now. We're back out there in masses. And respectfully to Officer Lou and Ramos, police officers have one of the toughest jobs in the world. I would also argue that being a black man in America is also one of the toughest jobs in the world as well.
Does digital media change this for
Absolutely,
moving
because
forward?
now everybody can see. It's the videos right there. The videos of the demonstrations are right there. People can see people in the street upset and just wanting to get something done and something changed. So this will continue and it will grow and develop, hopefully, and get some policies changed.
And seeing that video itself is a form of trauma itself.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Monique, John, for coming to us. Nyaba, always good to see you. Andre, a pleasure. And Tepo, thank you for joining us there from St. Louis. We want to take a moment now to remember those people that we lost this year in memoriam. This is Arise America.